Okay, so I'm Kawandeep. You can call me Coven. And the hard thing about giving an art talk when you don't have red is that you're missing red. But that's okay. We'll use our imaginations. And so I'm going to talk about some of the work that I've been making over the last couple of years. And what I'm most excited about in this is that I know that many of you are engineers, and I'm going to show you some of the cool things you can do when you think about making useless things. So, oh yeah, the question I got was, what's your favorite number? I really like the number 22 because that's my birthday number. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of twos in my life. Like 22 has two twos. I'm a twin. Pisces has two fish. Yep. So what I do during the day is I work at this company called Embedly, and I work with media companies. It basically turns URLs into some sort of content snippet, like a video or a image, say if it's coming from Instagram. And by night, actually really what got me into coding was making interactive art. So a few years ago, I began a public art group where we make interactive and public art. And you're going to see some of the work today made by this group. Our principles in the work that we make is that it's public and that it's interactive. And the idea was that we saw an opportunity within cities to help make public spaces more engaging and more exciting and more welcoming for people through introducing art. And so, all right, we're talking about technology. And when I think about it more broadly, I think about it as things that have some sort of function that make life easier. Like it's easier and more practical for me to travel here by plane and other things. But what I'm going to talk about today is technology for expression. So instead of thinking about what's useful and what might make you money, you think about things that are useless. That's not your motivation. Maybe you're thinking about creating meaning in some way, expressing yourself in some way, or helping other people express themselves. And of course, there's overlaps between the two. And what I found over the years is that it's a fairly powerful way to collaborate with people, and it because it helps you test the boundaries or push the boundaries of technology in some way, since you're exploring fairly broadly. You can make things, and people are excited to hear about it, so you can learn from others, and it's great to share. Yeah. So all of this for me began at this place in I'm coming from Boston called Sprout, and you can see all these things here. It's kind of like a makerspace, and the thing about this spot was that it didn't just attract developers and engineers. It also hosted like various parties and dinners and had puppet shows. And so it's this environment that I learned how to code and how to do electronics. So it wasn't surprising that some of the collaborations that I have would be more creative. And so kind of moving into some of the pieces in particular. Thinking about sculpture, geometry, and spectacle. This first piece. All right, so this first piece is two geodesic spheres, and what we did was that we connected like a rope between one and the other, and the idea was like we're going to make something big, put it in front of the armory, and then the interaction for this is that you could rotate them. It's really simple, but when you see it, you're like, wow, that's cool. Part of you is like, how did you make it? But really, like what people get into is that they can spin it. So it's fun to see, like she's yelling at her dad, like, pick me up so I can spin it. And he's like, okay, I don't have a choice. And then she's able to spin it. And then you can see the inner one start spinning. So it's like it's fairly simple, but it's fun to see how people respond to it, how it changes this entrance. Like as you walk through, you reach up and you spin it. This next piece is thinking about like if I'm introducing a public piece, like thinking about certain things that really inspire me around community. So like one is like a dinner table, like these two ideas. One of them is a dinner table, you gather around and you can have a conversation. Maybe it's with family, maybe it's with friends. And the other is Legos, this sort of interface that people find very intuitive, that both like children and adults like playing with, and that you could be very creative with them. So in this case, our Legos were magnets, and our dinner table was a giant blue ball that we covered in magnets. And what we did was we gave people little metal pieces, and we said, we've discovered this planet, and we need your help to build civilizations.
Neodia 2.
And so this was put at a festival, and some people were really eager to add stuff to it, and some people were really reluctant until I gave them a bucket, and they said, okay. But what's fun about this is that you could build things off of what your friends made, and you could destroy things too. It's okay. You could take a magnet and just wipe everything clean. So I'm going to go a little bit into how we made this, because you're all engineers. You might be interested in this. We got a bunch of T-Vex suits and fiberglass. The first time we tried this, it was too cold, so you need it a little bit warmer so the fiberglass sets. We covered it in fiberglass, then put foam around it, and then put spray foam. Then we kind of drilled little holes and stuck magnets in, glued them in, and we painted the whole thing blue. The original shape was this giant beach ball we got from China. So that was our original, what we built everything on. And then, like, you could see, what's fun is like how it can inspire weirdness. So like some people brought, they knew this was here, some of our buddies, so they brought a Godzilla and put magnets on its feet. And you could see it on the corner, and that could go around and start destroying things. This is one of my favorite aspects of the piece, and I think this image captures it, where you have 3 generations. Like you have a daughter, her father, and her grandfather, all around this piece and building stuff, and they all know each other. But here's another way that they can I don't know, build together, express themselves together. So this next one is, earlier with the Tesla, we were looking at sound and getting output from it. So one of the things that you could do with it is attach it to light, or use it to program a light. And this is something that's going to happen during the workshop Frenchie and I are doing tomorrow. It's one of the possibilities. But it's really, really simple interaction. But we put a prototype together and played with it, tested it out. Great, so it's working. And that's cool. That's cool. It's happening in in the bedroom. But what's really fun is when you introduce it somewhere, when you put it outside. So we put it out downtown by the Children's Museum, where if you yelled, it would start to glow, and if you yell louder, it would glow brighter. So I'll show another video, but I'll show some of the background stuff on it. So for this, we used some LED strips, Adafruit LED strips. If we did it again, I'd probably use NeoPixels. There's a few Arduinos. There's a separate Arduino for each LED strip. An idea behind this was that if it's going to be up during a Boston winter, we want it to be really redundant. So if something stopped working, it wouldn't ruin everything else. We packed it all in these storm boxes, and then put it in this milk jug. And then usually you can't do this in public. It would be a little strange if you were just yelling, but this thing gives you a reason to, and it's okay. Okay, this is my favorite, this little kid. When he runs away. So, all right, again using LEDs, but now we're going to use a webcam. For this piece, this is the Medialab. It's a beautiful looking building. So I used to wander into it a lot. And they were having an art show, and I thought it'd be cool to show art in it because it's such a cool building. So I pretended to be a student there so I could show art. And this is me being an architecture student. And because they were like, yeah, we can show your art. We just need to know, what major you are. So we started making a piece, and we figured if we want to sneak art into a show, we might as well make it big. So this is just sketching it out because, it's so easy to tinker with things that are at the scale of your hands. But when you start going bigger, it's nice to sketch it out and then see how it feels as you walk up to it. So we just kind of taped, this is like using tape and putting it on a wall. And then we made this giant canvas and put an LED strip behind it. And up on the top, you see a webcam. And it would just pick the center pixel whatever it sees and changes the whole thing to that color. So now you see like I'm wearing like a red purplish jacket, and that's the color of the LEDs. So here it is during that show. So as people move, we had a little sign there. As people moved around on it, they could change the color of this. And here's like another piece. It was a bunch of Legos, and so she took it and just moved it around, and it changed the colors. But you can see how it's like really, right now, it's like really simple experiments of what can I sense, and then how do I map that to some sort of output. This is input-output stuff, and then throwing it somewhere public and seeing how people respond to it. SMS interfaces. So, you know, later on you'll see smartphone stuff, but not everyone has a smartphone. Nice thing about SMS is it's a lot more accessible. So these are some sculptures in downtown Boston. They're light blades, and they glow these various hues. It's very beautiful. We thought it'd be cool if you could actually control the hues in some way. So what we did was we introduced this board called the Rascal Micro. It's an open hardware board that you can program with Python. And here are the light blades. There's some sort of color box that changes the colors in it. We hooked up the Rascal to that, which itself is a server, so we could hook that up to the internet. And so when you send a text, talks to a server, talks to the Rascal, which talks to this color box and changes the colors. The process of doing the tech probably took half an hour. Getting the city on board with it and like getting access to the vault where the color box was probably 2 years. And you could change, so now he's texting random. We could put little Easter eggs in. So that's just random colors. And what's nice is like when you go into a city and you see something at this scale, you don't feel like you can really control it, but this is kind of giving you access to that. Fun thing is, you know, we hooked it up to the server. We could just record what people were texting. So you see the common ones like red, blue, green, and then you see fish. You know, that one was a little bit surprising. How did people find fish? Like somebody found it online and they started telling their friends that if you text it fish, it's going to do something. So if we look deeper into it, there was like the distribution on it up at top. There's like somebody who texted it 40 times. They texted fish. The next one's 18, 16. Somebody got really passionate about fish. And so like you give people the opportunity to be weird and strange and they'll do it and it's delightful. So from these works, from these public art works, I found that part of the meaning, you know, here I was kind of using it to explore how to do more Arduino things or LED things. But when I put it up, that meaning was coming from interactivity, that people could be expressive with the piece in some way, or that it would respond to them. And that would give people agency. And then also they could be creative. So this became very exciting for me in the work that I made. I hated having a really messy desk with hardware everywhere. So I moved more into web stuff. And got, like, recently we've been seeing more APIs being available. And if you think of the browser as a canvas, it's kind of like this, you get a canvas ready, you gesso it, whatever, and then you can start painting on it. Thing about the browser is that, okay, you can paint on it, but then it's also got these APIs for sound and webcam and visuals, and it's just getting even more and more powerful. So what are some possible explorations I could do with that? And then once it's on a browser, then you can start sharing it really easily. So that's what I'm gonna describe a few projects in this space and then how they overlap. The Tesla talk was talking about JavaScript, the strength of the community. Part of the reason I got excited about making art in JavaScript was because of all these tools available, and that if you made anything and was experimenting with something, people were really likely to share it. So here's one piece. This first piece that you played with in the right in the beginning. Wait, raise your hand if you actually added a circle to it. Cool. Okay, so a good number of you. That was inspired. I think you added the most, Anton. Awesome. So that was inspired by this piece by Kusama where you would go into a room that was all white and you were given a colored sticker and you could put it wherever you wanted. And I loved like the kind of trust that the artist had in people, but it was still a confined space. Like it's not like you could take a marker and draw everywhere. You had to draw anything you wanted with these little circles. And over time, the room got more and more full of colors and it got kind of crazy. So what would that be like on the internet? Like you could draw it on a website, and then you throw WebSockets on it, and now all of a sudden you're sharing it. So this is what you saw, or what you experienced earlier. Like you draw it from your phone, and then it shows up on the page. The fun thing about this is, like, you know, when I first introduced this like a year ago, people were like, all right, what app do I have to download? And I'm like, you don't need to. It's internet. And so once people see that others are on it, they start drawing things to kind of signal. So you see a lot of happy faces. Here you see like the Mickey Mouse variation of the happy face that has the ears. You see these geometric patterns, and then that almost like fractal-like thing opening up. And once it's on a screen, you can like project it. So we put it on a building, and this was fun because you don't really like walk around thinking you can change the look of a building. And then you see this and you're like, this is weird. And then, you know, we'd say, hey, do you have a phone? Or you can use this iPad. You can add to it. We're not used to that. Usually we can change things like, I don't know, with our hands. But this is bigger than us. Like, but you can change it. And this was in Grand Rapids in Michigan, and I was in Boston, so I could do it from where I was living, and anybody connected in the world could participate in it. So now, like, if you saw earlier that piece that you yelled and the lights changed, like, for that, the public of that piece was anybody who could get to it. Now that I added the internet to a piece like this, anybody can get to it now. So it's like widening the public in a way for that piece. So here's projecting another building. Here's a few more patterns people made. Someone wrote K on it because they knew I was watching. Someone wrote help. You know, maybe not the best medium, but it's okay. And then it gets really messy. And then there's always cute faces. That one's adorable. Okay. So now, like, all right, cool. You could do that in the browser. What about that overlap between the two? So you can draw in the browser, and then it shows up on some LEDs. And then, you know, once it's in the browser, okay, now I like make a nice box for it so I can get it through the airport. But now it's in this box, and then I add WebSockets. You can control it from your phone. And once WebSockets are added to it, now like a few people can play with it. And this is just like a small prototype, but I imagine something like this in a storefront. Like, maybe the store is closed, but people who walk by will stop and be like, whoa, cool, what is that? They pull out their phone and they do something. Like, that could be fun for people walking by and for the store. So there's some opportunities there that I think can still be explored. So it doesn't only have to be screen-based stuff. Like, this is a simple example. Instead of taking like sound as we did earlier, it's just distance. So here, like, I walk to my desk, and then my desk is like, hey, good to see you. And then I leave, and it gets sad. Or, you know, the same LED strip, just get my iPad, and then I just draw on it. So these are just really simple cases, and I think these are opportunities that could be much more explored, like sculptures that respond to you physically when you're present there, and then also ones that respond to you when you're far away. Okay, so more about web APIs. So this piece isn't interactive. This is more me, like I was making GIFs on Tumblr and posting them. And the thing about making GIFs on Tumblr is that people reblog it or like it, and that like triggers something in your brain where you just want to make more. And that's dangerous because it can take a while to make a GIF. So I was thinking, all right, well, I'm a coder, so maybe I can like make a robot to make GIFs for me. So that's kind of what happened here. I was looking at these light gradients and just made small variations on it. Just different like colors and different, and they're moving very, very slowly. I just made a few of them. And every 3 hours it would post. And I felt like such a prolific artist because this robot I made was posting for me, but no one knew. They thought it was me. But then one morning I wake up, and then like, this is like the number of followers of that blog, and it just shot up. Like more than 5 times the number I have. So I was like, what does this mean that a robot is doing better than I am on Tumblr? Like maybe I'm not tumbling right. But that was still like pretty exciting. The numbers are fine, but it's easy to forget like who's behind those numbers. So I saw this quote that really really spoke to me. This blog is called All Horizons. That's what I called it. And basically, if you're like me and often feel overstimulated by visual stimuli, I recommend this blog. It's all rippling gradients like this one in different hues. Some of them are way too intense for me, and different gradient frequencies, blah, blah. Basically, it's just really nice. So this is just a comment somebody left on it, and I'd never meet them, and they'd never meet me. But like, we had this moment on the internet that just felt really good. So I realized that maybe, you know, even with these weird things that I might do on my own, because I'm personally passionate about it, that other people, it can make their day happier. And like, tying to what I was saying before, that GIF is completely useless. Like, you probably saw them earlier, you're like, why is he making this robot GIF thing? It's weird. But I wanted to, and somebody else connected to it, so it's okay. Okay. This next one, looking at the webcam again, applying some image processing and making GIFs. So I was looking at these, again on Tumblr. I found these cool, like, pixel sorted GIFs. I just thought they were really beautiful. And I thought, what would happen if you like applied it to your face? So I took a selfie and I applied it to my face. And it just looks really, I didn't really know what to think of it. But I just decided that other people should have that opportunity to do this to their face. So I made this like prompt that was like, this was at the end of 2013. 2013 was the year of the selfie. 2013 is over, welcome to another you. So you would take that selfie and then you would obliterate it and then like, you're reborn. So this is like the art part of it. Okay, and so it was covered in this blog I like, but this is basically like the interaction of it. You go on this website, it's like really, the design is not so good, but you take your photo and then it processes and then you can submit it to Tumblr or save it. And then people started submitting, and then I just got all these faces. People wanted to see it glitched out like that. But it was fun to see like some of the different ones. So this one, you can see like someone did a cat selfie. You always have to have the cat selfie, but you can see the cat in the corner. Someone wanted to be pixel sorted with their cat. Another artist saw this, and then he was working on this image processing browser stuff. So he made a version of it. And what was fun was then a few months later, we could meet and collaborate on something. But we met originally through him seeing this piece on the internet and then sending me a link to something he made. So this is webcam and face detection. So this is what me and Forrest, the guy in the other glitched out photo, made. For this one, it was like, all right, there's a webcam up top, and basically it applies, we found some JavaScript library for doing facial detection. And so it finds your eyes and your mouth and just draws weird stuff over it. It was like for a hackathon, so we only had like a day to do it. It just looks really zany. I think it's all right, but I think what was more fun about it was, and here's like a little bit of the interaction. So you can see it tracks your face, and sometimes it's off. That's okay. But people had fun with how the algorithm could be off. Like, that became the interactive creative part. Like, so people would sometimes try to trick the algorithm. Or when I play this video, you'll see everybody, the moment it detects them, sticks their tongue out. So there, he's gonna stick his tongue out. She's gonna stick her tongue out. He's just making weird faces. And then this is how I know it was a good piece. If somebody is willing to take a photo of themselves in the piece, I feel like that's validation. Okay, so moving from the webcam to the Connect, this was kind of more a question of, is it possible? Like, are we there with the browser to do image processing of depth buffers? And so the first thing was, all right, found a node module that I could work on with the Connect, and I streamed them with WebSockets to a client. So this is just a website and the Connect, and is this gonna load? Maybe, yeah, there we go. So it's just like the Connect looking at there, you can see the Connect below, looking at itself, cool feedback patterns. And then the next question is, all right, I have depth buffers. What sort of processing can I do with it, and how much will it slow things down? So these are just some, you could just see some processing smoothing things out. And then some simple like edge detection for it. And it's like, it's okay, you know, but it's not as slow as I thought it would be. Actually, it's like possible, and I didn't think it would be possible. So we just took this and projected it on this artist's work. Her work is very line-based, so I thought that would be a cool way to combine the two. But that's okay. Yeah. And again, like, awesome. So you'll see this. You'll see something awesome happen at the very end. All right. So people are playing with it. They're waving their arms, giving each other bunny ears. Bam! Photo of yourself with the piece. So now moving into sound stuff. All the things I've shown you earlier have been visual, but I really love making music. So just a few web audio examples. Leap Motion, you can stream the events in JavaScript and open them up in a browser. So then you can make some sort of like theremin-like thing. Everybody makes a theremin with a Leap if they like sound. But this is like multi-finger theremin, so you could play with different oscillating patterns. You can play with depth stuff. These are just like little experiments that I would make and share via Vines and GitHub. So it's like a little stressful. So here's a couple more that I'll play. This one was thinking again about drones. And then like randomizing the oscillators. So it sounds like a swarm. Okay. So now something more relaxing. So these were just like little visual sound experiments to see what it was like. So this is like the opposite of that one. This one is more relaxing. And so like sometimes I just sit and play this because it was relaxing. And we had a moment together just now. So you saw those? Okay, so those are cool, but they didn't really, none of that really sang to me until I saw this. And then it like really blew my mind because this was something that showed how you could have visuals. I'm gonna open up in another. You could have visuals and sounds with fairly low latency, and you could also do it on the mobile browser. You guys know this? So that, like, when I first saw that, I was using it on my phone, and that blew my mind. That we're at that point now. Where a few years ago, when you wanted to do anything with that sort of gesture interaction or low latency, you'd have to go native. But going native, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So this was like a moment. Now I can make things on my phone and share that link, and you can find it on Facebook and open it up and play with it immediately, and you don't have to go to the App Store. What? And so, you know, just little experiments are now possible that I can share really fast. So this is like a little arpeggiator thing. Here is another piece. Ooh, we could do it. Oh, I'll just play it first. No, I'll do it. So this would just take your mouse cursor. Oh, somebody's there. And make a sound out of it. And there's somebody, oh, that's you. So now we're hanging out together in this little room. Oh, there's somebody else here. Okay, let's all go in the middle, right here. Okay, that's enough. Okay, so what I like, that was really simple, but I saw people doing really funny things with it. Like people would follow each other. Like they would. So here you see they're kind of mimicking each other, going back and forth. And there was like a moment with this, even though it's so simple, where like they're doing that pattern, where you would, it was clear that somebody else was there and they knew you were there and you were responding to them and they were responding to you. And even though it was like a little dot that just makes sounds, you knew there was a person behind it. And that felt really oddly intimate. And it wasn't just me that felt that way. I saw on Twitter a little conversation that went, I just harmonized with somebody, but I don't know who. Is that weird? And somebody responded to them, it's natural and beautiful. And so I was like, I couldn't help but agree with that. So this I don't understand. I don't really understand what happened with it, but I would love to, for me, it was really meaningful. I would love to replicate that experience. So now moving from this like WebSocket stuff to like a projector, and back to like this building thing, was this idea of you'd be standing here and this building and you could control this projection some way with your phone. And so I started testing out different ideas of what you could do with your phone. I see Patatap and I'm like, oh, cool, I could do sounds. But you can also do the accelerometer with your phone. So you combine the two. And this would, like, when I was working on this was the best, because I'd be, hanging out, go to a networking event or something, and people would be like, what do you do? And I just like pull out my phone and go, woo, because that's what I was working on. It's like the best icebreaker ever. So that was like accelerometer to sound. So if I want to like make this piece with phones connecting to a screen, I could take advantage of that in some way. So I like, as I was mentioning earlier, once it's on a web page, you can share it. So I like posted this on Facebook, sounding really serious. Added accelerometer support. If you're on a phone, press this, blah, blah. And then I got a response from a buddy, like, so that was 11:54, this was 12:03, so just like a few minutes later. And he says, holy crap, I just annoyed the entire room for 10 minutes of bliss. Oh my God, just hold it on and run around away from people chasing you. LOL. So I figured like this was prototyping, I got feedback, this seems like pretty good data, I'll continue on this path. But then once it was out there, people were like, hey, where's my laptop? Which I thought was like kind of strange. Maybe you wouldn't want to shake your laptop around, but that's available. Because the UI was so crappy, people built other UIs on it or made it collaborative. And I like that opportunity, that once it's on the internet, you could share it easily and other people could see the code and play with it and hack on it. So now, then it became something more. So that was like messing with sounds on the phone. Then I started working on the visual. And the phone itself looked something like this, where it was like a single color, and when you shook it, it would like have little bell sounds. And then the visuals was something like this. When you moved your thumb around the screen, it had little light trails. And my favorite thing about showing this piece is that it kind of pushed what people thought of when they saw art, in that when people were playing with it, they were like, oh, I really like this. I'd be like, you like it? You can take it home. And they'd be like, what? How? And I'd be like, it's a website. And that really surprised people, because it seems like things like this aren't available like to download, like just via a website. We could try this. So this one is like more real time than the dots one, so it'll probably like get messed up. Cool. 3 people are on it. And if you turn the sounds on your phone, then you can get little sounds coming out too. That's pretty cool. And if you want to change your color, you could just refresh it. And as you can see, the more people that go on it, the more you are lost. You can't find yourself. And that is the limitation of this piece, that it works best for maybe 2 to 5 people. So if you want to if you want to find where you are, you can always pick someplace on the bottom too, because nobody's hanging out there. Now everyone's going to go there. That's okay. And sometimes I would just kind of like sit and like chill and meditate and just like do it real slow. It was just really relaxing. But anyway, that was the website. Cool. So like, just kind of overview some of the things that I discussed, like, you know, playing on the internet, messing with hardware, messing with software. They're all like, this is kind of looking at them all as mediums, like mediums to make art, as mediums for expression in this case. In some form, I would be expressing myself, or I'd give you a little dot to express yourself. With the sound one, it worked really well. With ones like this, it kind of works, but if there's a lot of people, it's harder. And so again, like looking at this connected canvas and hardware, I see it like personally, what enamors me so much is that it allows people to kind of touch more metaphorically, like notice each other across public space. So some of the earlier pieces of like that giant globe, you could see what other people made across public space. Over the internet with the dots thing, you know, we could collaborate on something on this like giant building. And then between digital and physical. So like what we saw earlier with finding light or like sensing light and then showing something in the browser. And there's so many opportunities with all of these little parts to put them together in different ways. Here's like, you know, looking at something very traditional like a concert. But what if instead of the sound coming out of speakers, it's coming out of your phone? And so here was like a buddy was like, hey, can you make this interface? So in this, he is, maybe it will play, he's controlling everything from there, from his laptop. And all those sounds you hear of arpeggiators are from people's phones all around him. So this is reimagining what it means to go to a concert, to go to a show. And you have some freedom on how you could change those sounds. Maybe you go to a dance party and your phone becomes a strobe light, and then the artist or the musician can control the color of the strobe, so they're all the same color. Like, he just changed the key. So we can look at concerts, change those, or we can imagine, like, we've done so much on screens. What about screens that are iconic? You know, like you look at Times Square, there's so many people there. Why don't these screens know I exist? That's an opportunity as well. So we have this connected canvas that's getting more powerful and easier to use. And we can use hardware and hook up these things to explore the potential of these technologies. We can use them to bring incredible experiences into the world. While I was working on all of this stuff, like I saw this commercial. I don't know, some of you maybe you've seen it. But this is iPhone commercial, and I was watching it and I was like, this is cool. Right? That's like accelerometer visual stuff. Like, and it was awesome to see all these possibilities. But I was like, you can do this on a website now. And you don't need an iPhone either. You could do it on an Android or, you know, whatever other phone. So look, like moving that phone around and getting those beautiful colors. Anyway, then so my favorite is like this one at the end. All right, like pushing launch on the phone and it sends those rockets up. That was like a WebSocket message maybe. And that could be done from anywhere. Cool, like you don't need an iPhone for that. So all of these things that originally seemed kind of magical are now totally within reach. So again, returning to technology for function. Makes it easier to live, easier to travel, we can be healthier, and it make life more convenient. It frees up time to do other things. And now looking at technology for expression. Earlier, I like jokingly said it's like totally useless, but you know, when I was thinking about it more, like I think about some of my favorite books or poems. I think about my favorite movies and favorite music. Like all of these things, like came from people exploring these mediums, which were which themselves, these objects came from advances in technology. And I know this sounds like really general and really cheesy, but all of those things, they give meaning, hope, and inspiration. Like, you can think when you're in your darkest time, you find a song you really love and it really changes the way you feel. And it really, like, it helps make things make sense, and it gives you a reason to live. So while, on one hand, you can use technology to make life more convenient and wonderful, when you start thinking about expression, you can give people really meaningful and like hopeful and miraculous experiences. Thanks. So these are some of the collaborators in this work. But yeah, if you have any questions of things that you want to make or ideas that you have, I'd love to hear. I think I was invited mostly because I like to make this weird art stuff that is useless but can be inspiring. But yeah, thanks for checking out the talk.